Good afternoon, everybody. Phil Simons with Columbia Grain here, and your Friday afternoon weekly grain market recap. Well, the cat's out of the bag. We are on Friday. It's Mother's Day weekend, and we also had the May USDA supply and demand report released this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we're going to dive right into it because there actually was a fair amount of information to look at here in this morning's report. But we're going to navigate over to our favorite website, columbiagrain.com. And in the upper right-hand section, we can go to the Producer Solutions tab, and then that'll take us over to our Producer Solutions link where we house our pertinent data. But again, we did have the USDA May supply and demand numbers released from the USDA this morning. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to kind of break it down a little bit between old crop and new crop. So you can see in your screen here, we're going to start out with ending stocks for the old crop 23-24 crop year. We look at corn, wheat, and soybeans in the U.S., and realistically, there wasn't a major change in the overall numbers. With corn, we actually were down 5% from last month. The numbers that they gave us here last month in U.S. ending stocks for corn coming in just over 2 billion bushels now. On soybeans, pretty much unchanged. From last month, well, not pretty much. I mean, it was unchanged from last month. Same numbers, 340 million bushels for the ending stocks potential there. And in all wheats, we're actually down by about 2% from last month in the all wheat category. When we look at the world production for old crop 23-24, continue to see the same kind of numbers that we have been, over the last couple of reports coming out of Brazil and Argentina. It's really no major changes there. The bigger change would have come from last month's change by down about 4% in Argentina corn, bringing it down about 53 million metric tons for overall production down there. We look at old crop world ending stocks as well. Really not a huge change, down slightly in corn, down 2% also in soybeans. So really kind of mimicking what we had been seeing the last couple of reports. We look at this is a really good report to look at because we actually do get our first blush from the USDA in terms of the potential production for corn, soybeans, and winter wheats as well. And also potential ending stocks numbers going forward. So we can see the 24-25 crop year U.S. ending stocks. Actually, the May for corn came in at just over 2.1 billion bushels, which continues to be a very sizable number as we look at the supply and demand numbers here. When we look and see what the change was from the February Ag Outlook Forum, again, it was down significantly from the initial thoughts at 2.5 billion bushels, but the average estimate came in at 2.2 as well. So it was definitely down, from where the average estimates had it coming in at, and along with where the February Ag Outlook Forum had them coming in at too for corn. Same on soybeans. We actually went a little bit the other way, up by about 2% from the February Ag Outlook Forum. And all wheats pretty much unchanged from the numbers that we saw in February from the Ag Outlook Forum that did come out there. Overall production for corn, we're still getting numbers of 181 bushel to the acre on corn potential yield going forward, which continues to be looks like a big number going forward, but we'll definitely see as we move through the growing season here. Production down by about 1% from the February Ag Outlook as well. And soybeans, kind of similar fashion, down slightly in overall production. Yield pretty much unchanged from the initial thoughts there at 52 bushel to the acre. When we look at the U.S. Production for potential winter wheats, we did see a couple things flopping around here. I know all wheat came in about 3% higher than last year. When we look at the by class, we do see that the hardwood winter wheat is actually looking to potentially increase by about 17% from last year's number of 601 million bushels up to 705 million bushels potentially for this coming crop year. On the other side of that, we have soft red wheat down by about 23%. Last year was coming in at 449 million bushels. This year, potentially right around 344 million bushels. So again, up on winter wheat, hardwood winter wheat, and down on soft red winter wheat for the majority of the report. On white wheat, we did see a little bit of an increase there as well, up by about potentially 16% from last year's numbers of 198 million bushels up to 229 million bushels potentially this coming year for soft white winter wheat, not including the spring wheat, soft white winter wheat. Again, when we look at the USDA for new crop world ending stocks, corn down slightly from last year, down at 312 million metric tons. Soybeans, on the other hand, up by about 13%, up to 128 million metric tons there. And all wheats, world ending ending stocks for all wheats down about 2%, coming in at 253 million metric tons there. So again, a lot of information to digest there, you know, in terms of potential yield, ending stocks, and how that's going to relate to the overall price that we continue to see. The ranges that we saw in the week, quite honestly, after today is really where we saw all the fireworks come right at the tail end of the week once again. Again, this week really did feel like we were going about 100 miles an hour, but when the dust settled, you know, on corn, really we had a 15-cent weekly range on corn, and we were actually able to hold on to 11 cents of that. Soybeans, we actually had a 37-cent range. We were actually only able to hold on to 5 cents of that for new crop soybeans. But then when we turn the page and we look at the wheat complex, once again, you know, wheat was actually on a pretty good move. Kansas September had a weekly range of 46 cents and was able to hold on to a gain of 29 cents out there. When we look at Chicago September, we see the weekly range came in at 54 cents, and the weekly net change was actually able to hold on to a gain of 40 cents there. And in Minneapolis September, we had a 31-cent range and actually able to hold on to 9 cents of the overall range that we saw in Minneapolis. So again, you know, we continue to see these knee-jerk reactions in the markets. Quite honestly, right now, we continue to look at the balance sheets, and they look to build, quite honestly, in really everything, in corn, wheat, soybeans. You know, so it is, you know, looking at more of a weather market more than anything right now in terms of the price direction and the action that we've seen this week specifically. So again, we just need to continue to look at it and look for opportunities to take advantage, especially for new crop. You know, when we look at hedge to arrive contracts, accumulator contracts, or just straight up cash contracts, really should be taking advantage of some of these price and knee-jerk reactions that we are seeing in the marketplace. We did see the funds, you know, in the market really covering a good portion of their net short position that they had been holding. Corn specifically, it looks like they did buy close to 115,000 contracts of corn that they were short. So they were looking to cover in a portion of that, which is really a good driver to continue to see the markets move higher this week. Now, what that will you know, turn into next week and going forward is anybody's guess. So continue to definitely watch the weather, but more importantly, get your orders out there and working so that you do take advantage of these price moves as they do come together. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up for the weekend. Remember, it is Mother's Day, so remember to treat every day like it's Mother's Day. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk with you next week.